It's the early 2000s. Social media isn't a thing. Being into wellness is kinda weird, and gym memberships are for rich people and bodybuilders. We get our health advice from daytime TV and whatever magazine we happen to pick up at the dentist's waiting room. Fad diets are everywhere, and kids in school are taught that the food pyramid is gospel. I might be looking back at this era with rose-tinted glasses, but I swear that fast food was way better in the 2000s too. Pizza Hut had an all-you-can-eat buffet, Hungry Jack's had that amazing grilled chicken burger, Big Macs were actually big, and of course, Sizzler, RIP. We couldn't resist the delicious, cheap, convenient food. We were eating out more, and as a result, our waistlines got bigger. Then came the backlash.
Childhood obesity has more than doubled in children.
Efforts to curb obesity among children are failing.
The country is facing a dangerous weight problem.
Millions and millions of America's seriously obese children.
1 in 4 Australian students are overweight or obese.
We needed a scapegoat, and the finger was pointed at fast food. Books that cast a negative light on the industry, like Fast Food Nation and Fatland, How Americans Became the Fattest People in the World, become bestsellers. In 2002, 10 kids and their parents in New York sued McDonald's for making them obese, arguing the food was addictive, the health risks weren't clearly stipulated, and the ads targeted at children were too aggressive. Now let's fast forward to 2005. I'm sitting in high school health class. The teacher is away, so the substitute wheels in the TV and plays a movie that I still think about way too much to this day, Super Size Me, directed by and starring Morgan Spurlock. After that, I became obsessed with documentaries, and one butterfly effect later, here we are at this very YouTube channel you're watching now. Although I still have a nostalgic soft spot for Super Size Me, the entire premise has since been exposed as being built on a major lie. So here's a look back on the cultural phenomenon that was Super Size Me, and the messy, complicated legacy it has left behind. Super Size Me opens with a bunch of dramatic statistics to grab our attention. America's the fattest country in the world. Over 100 million people are overweight or obese, which is more than 60% of all US adults. Obesity-related illnesses kill around 300,000 people a year. 1 in 4 Americans eat fast food every day. Morgan Spurlock asks the question, is fast food to blame? He uses the real-life lawsuit I mentioned earlier as the starting point for his experiment. He's going to eat only McDonald's for 30 days and see what happens. 33-year-old Spurlock sees a cardiologist, a gastroenterologist, and a GP to get some tests done and establish that he starts off in good health. He's at a healthy weight, has no pre-existing conditions, isn't on any meds, doesn't drink, smoke, or use drugs. His blood work looks great.
Any alcohol use?
Now, none.
A nutritionist tells him he should eat about 2,500 calories a day to maintain his weight, and also instructs him to keep a food log.
So what I should do is I should keep a sort of a checklist of the things that I eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Keep a food log. Your calorie needs are going to be averaging about 2,500 calories a day.
He also takes a fitness test and scores above average for his age. Since over 60% of Americans reportedly don't exercise, he decides to stop working out during the experiment too. His girlfriend at the time, Alexandra, is a vegan chef, and before this, they were eating healthy, plant-based meals at home. Spurlock lays out the rules of the experiment. He can only eat food from McDonald's, must supersize if asked, which, fun fact, has never been a thing in Australia, so this entire concept was foreign to me. Must eat every item on the menu at least once, and he has to eat 3 full meals a day, no exceptions. Things predictably didn't start off too well. He vomits up a supersized meal on day 1, but by day 3, he says his body is adjusting. On day 5, he checks in with the nutritionist, who is shocked that he's been eating 5,000 calories a day, twice what he needs. She advises to make his meals smaller. By day 18, Spurlock's GP notices signs of liver damage.
It's very non-specific, but it means the liver is sick.
Yeah.
And the most likely cause of your liver sickness is a fatty liver. Your liver is now like pate. If somebody were doing this to their liver with alcohol, they could theoretically wipe out the liver, wipe out all the liver cells and there'd be a liver failure. Now, I've never heard of anybody doing this to their liver with a high-fat diet. But I guess anything's possible. I don't know. I can't answer the question. Never been done before. No one's ever wiped out their liver with a high-fat diet before.
On day 21, Spurlock wakes up with chest pain and heart palpitations, which the doctor can't come up with an explanation for, but he makes another alarming comment about Spurlock's liver.
The results for your liver are obscene beyond anything I would have thought.
Yeah.
truly. You know, that movie, Death in Las Vegas, Nicolas Cage, I mean, that pickled his liver during the course of a few weeks in Las Vegas, right? I would never have thought that you could do the same thing with a high-fat diet.
Yeah.
My advice to you as a physician is that you've got to stop.
Despite his doctors, nutritionists, and girlfriend's pleas, Spurlock makes it to day 30. Over the course of the month, he reported feeling pressure in his chest, depression, constant hunger, fatigue, sexual dysfunction, and even addiction to Macca's. By the end of the experiment, he gained 24.5 pounds, going from 185.5 to 210. His body fat jumped from 11% to 18%, and he had doubled his risk of heart disease.
You know, we see people who go on an alcohol binge and their numbers go up like crazy. But to go on, a Mac attack, and they've got numbers to show that it attacks your liver too. I wouldn't have even thought about this, but it makes sense. Now that we have the data, it definitely makes sense.
Throughout the film, Spurlock also takes a look at the bigger picture behind America's obesity crisis: growing portion sizes, accessibility of cheap processed food, car-dependent lifestyles, fast food companies marketing to children, junk food in school cafeterias, lack of nutrition education, and of course, good old-fashioned corporate greed. At the end of the movie, we find out that the lawsuits against McDonald's were dismissed. Released in May 2004, Super Size Me was a massive hit, critically and at the box office, grossing $22 million on a $65,000 budget. It was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature and won Best Documentary Screenplay from the Writers Guild of America. The movie was a full-blown cultural phenomenon. It had everything: humor, shock value, hard-hitting social commentary, and there was plenty to discuss, like how legit the whole experiment was. Did Spurlock really eat that much Macca's, or was it all exaggerated and sensationalized for the cameras? There were gross-out moments like the very graphic gastric bypass surgery scene. The contrast between Spurlock and his girlfriend Alexandra, the vegan chef, who by the way isn't vegan anymore, added another layer, especially considering how differently we might view their relationship now, knowing what would come out years later. There's a lot about the film that's aged poorly, like the use of BMI, an appearance by Jared Fogle, and just generally outdated beliefs about high-fat diets. But more on that later. 6 weeks after its release, McDonald's quietly got rid of its supersized menu, though a company spokesman said at the time that the film had, quote, nothing to do with that whatsoever. Morgan Spurlock went on a major press tour to promote the film and became a household name. He wrote a follow-up book titled Don't Eat This Book: Fast Food and the Supersizing of America, and inspired a wave of similar health and diet documentaries, like Jamie's School Dinners, Food Inc., and Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead. But all that being said, just take a look around. Macca's is still as popular as ever, with no signs of slowing down. Turns out, one guy with a camera and a dream was no match for billions of dollars in marketing power. And while the film was generally well received, not everyone bought what Spurlock was selling. Plenty of critics, health professionals, and skeptics found holes in the film's logic and questioned the legitimacy of the whole experiment. One of the biggest criticisms of Super Size Me from the beginning was Spurlock's calorie intake. In the movie, he repeatedly ignored his nutritionist's advice to consume 2,500 calories a day to maintain his weight, and instead force-fed himself 5,000 calories a day for the drama. He could have eaten 5,000 calories of broccoli and still gained weight. He was also criticized for never releasing the food logs he was instructed to keep. There's one brief scene in the movie of him tallying up the menu items he had ordered, but we never saw him recording his meals. Several journalists requested to see the logs, but Spurlock staunchly refused. Meanwhile, other people tried to recreate the Super Size Me experiment and got very different results. In 2004, filmmaker So-So Whaley decided to try and eat nothing but McDonald's and lost weight. 40 pounds over 2 years in total. She stuck to eating 2,000 calories a day and, like Spurlock, ate everything on the menu at least once. She demonstrated that it's not what you eat, but how much of it you eat, and made her own documentary, Me and Mickey D's, as a direct counterpoint to Super Size Me, which she called, quote, junk science and propaganda. In 2006, Swedish researcher Fredrik Nystrom ran a similar experiment with medical students. They tried to replicate Spurlock's diet. No exercise, just non-stop fast food and junk food. However, they all struggled to hit 5,000 calories a day and found that force eating that much is not as easy as it seems. There were some changes to the students' livers, but none of them came close to the extreme liver damage that Spurlock had. And by the third week of the experiment, their livers started to bounce back. Nystrom was genuinely baffled by how badly Spurlock's body reacted, even wondering if he had an undiagnosed liver issue. In 2009, comedian and computer programmer Tom Norton released Fathead, a parody and rebuttal to Super Size Me. He mimicked Spurlock's documentary style, but his goal was to lose weight, eating only Maccas. He capped his daily calorie intake at 2,000, avoided sugary sodas entirely, and kept carbs under 100 grams a day. Like Spurlock, he started with a full round of medical tests and explained to viewers that at 31.2% body fat, he was obese by definition. Unlike Spurlock though, he kept a detailed food log and openly criticized Spurlock for failing to do so. He also did a lot of maths to show how difficult it was to eat 5,000 calories of McDonald's every day, suggesting that Spurlock deliberately went out of his way to overeat, or was not telling the full truth about everything he was consuming. After 28 days of his McDiet, Norton lost 12 pounds and reduced his body fat by 3%. His main argument was that fast food was not the cause of the obesity epidemic. He pointed out that obesity didn't magically disappear when McDonald's got rid of their supersize menu. The reality is, we all know that fast food isn't good for us. We don't need a movie to tell us that. In 2014, high school science teacher John's sister ate nothing but McDonald's for 180 days. Like Soso Whaley and Tom Norton, he capped his daily calorie intake at 2,000 calories, went for regular walks, and as a result, lost 60 pounds and improved his overall health. He criticized Super Size Me for being unrealistic and lacking any real educational value, then went on to make his own film with his students, 540 Meals. Choices make the difference. He became an official brand ambassador for McDonald's for 2 years, promoting the message that your health comes down to personal responsibility and making informed choices. In 2023, Kevin McGinnis, a 57-year-old grandpa from Nashville, went viral on TikTok for documenting his journey of losing 58.5 pounds by eating only Maccas for 100 days. His secret? Only eating half portions of each of his meals and drinking only water. And then there's 71-year-old Don Gorsk, the man who currently holds the Guinness World Record for most Big Macs eaten in a lifetime. As of March 2025, he has consumed 35,000 Big Macs, roughly 2 a day since May 1972. He's kept a massive collection of almost every single burger carton for some reason, and even proposed to his wife at a McDonald's booth. He was featured in Super Size Me, where we saw that although he had a rather unique look, he was fairly average sized, and he claimed he had no serious health issues because he never orders the fries. So point well and truly proven. Eating only McDonald's won't necessarily make you fat and depressed like Super Size Me might have led us to believe. I'm definitely not saying that a 100% fast food diet is the secret to health and weight loss, but what all these other experiments show is that clearly, Morgan Spurlock's dramatic crash and burn in Super Size Me didn't tell the whole story. After the success of Super Size Me, Morgan Spurlock continued a solid career producing, directing, and starring in controversial and topical documentary films, like Where in the World is Osama bin Laden and The Greatest Movie Ever Sold, though none of his other projects ever reached the same heights as Super Size Me. His TV shows 30 Days and Inside Man were some of his strongest work in my opinion, insightful, sharp, and entertaining. In September 2017, Super Size Me 2 Holy Chicken premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival, 13 years after the original. This time, Spurlock turned his focus to the chicken industry and exposed how the animals were mistreated, how farmers got exploited, and how marketing tactics are used to make fast food seem healthier than it is. The documentary also followed his attempt to open his own fast food restaurant that was transparent about where the food came from and how it was made. The film was positively received, and YouTube Red bought the distribution rights for $3.5 million. Spurlock then carried that spirit of transparency into his personal life. On the 14th of December 2017, just a few months after the premiere of Super Size Me 2 Holy Chicken, he posted a public statement on Twitter, voluntarily confessing to a history of sexual misconduct. He admitted to a past rape allegation from college, described himself as, quote, part of the problem during the #MeToo movement, acknowledged sexually harassing a female employee, and also came clean about serial infidelity and alcohol abuse. To drive the final nail into his own career coffin, Spurlock sent his statement to the New York Times to make sure it wouldn't get buried under the headlines about other disgraced predators in the entertainment industry. Then he checked into rehab. YouTube Red dropped Super Size Me 2. His in-progress projects, 2 films and 4 TV shows were scrapped, and his production company, Warrior Poets, dissolved, leaving 65 employees suddenly out of jobs just before Christmas. There was another revelation in Spurlock's mea culpa that raised serious questions about the accuracy of Super Size Me: the fact that he had been a functioning alcoholic for most of his life. He wrote, "Or is it because I've consistently been drinking since the age of 13? I haven't been sober for more than a week in 30 years. Considering that in the movie he had told a doctor on camera that he wasn't drinking during the experiment, it was quite the confession. Towards the end of the experiment, we see Spurlock's very concerned GP repeatedly bring up his severe liver damage, likening it to an alcoholic's after a binge. We obviously don't know for sure how heavily Spurlock had been drinking or if he had been drinking at all, but in hindsight, it's clear that he had not been honest about his alcohol consumption. In the film, the doctors were all scratching their heads about how a McDonald's diet could have caused such rapid and severe liver damage, and well, now we know it didn't. It was the alcohol, which could also explain some of his other symptoms like depression, fatigue, and weight gain. Calories from drinking add up fast. It also makes sense why no one else who tried to replicate the McDonald's diet ever came close to experiencing the same level of liver damage. It was because they weren't secretly drinking through it. In 2019, Spurlock, sober but reputation irreparably damaged, came back to the public eye to promote Super Size Me 2. This time with a much more modest distribution deal through Samuel Golden Films, the same team that had handled the original film for 15 years. He didn't shy away from addressing his past sexual misconduct and bad behavior, owning up to his mistakes in interviews. He told Deadline, "Whether it was a moment of clarity or guilt, I felt like I needed to own up to things that had happened in my past. As somebody who has made a career of trying to find out the truth and to talk about things, I wanted to say that I can do better, I can be better." Super Size Me 2 would end up being his final project. On the 23rd of May 2024, Morgan Spurlock passed away from complications related to cancer, age 53. So does Super Size Me still hold up in 2025? Purely for entertainment value? Sure. But should it still be shown in schools? Probably not. As for Morgan Spurlock's legacy, yeah, he was a very unreliable narrator and far from a perfect person, but his work did bring about actual change. He got people talking about and thinking more critically about their health choices, questioning the bigger forces behind the food we eat, while also influencing a whole new style of documentary filmmaking. Personal, provocative, attention-grabbing. And as for me, on the occasions I do indulge in a Big Mac, Super Size Me still pops into my head.